into live.
And now we're on.
That's what it says.
That's
That's
what it says.
like.
That's right.
What's going on, man?
What is going
Torger's
on?
birthday is today. 14, man. That's hard to believe.
Yep, Torger is 14 and had a nice workout with him this morning. It's good. We not only did one but two runs. We're up to the morning warm-up run and then the real run after the workout.
Yeah.
He's thrilled about that. It's cool. It's cool to see kids growing up. You know, it's a wild ride.
Yep. And exciting times ahead, man. You know, it's funny because like everybody always used to tell me when Amy was born, and you know, we would talk about how great her how her disposition was great and everything, and just wait till they get to the terrible twos.
I know, yeah.
And I just like, you know what? Screw that. It's it's the fantastic twos, and
that's right.
We just threw all that crap out, and all the supposed rebellious stuff. And do we have challenges? Of course we did. I mean, she's a regular person, and she's testing the boundaries and such, but we wanted her to unfold into a regular human being, and that was of her own making, instead of being a clone of somebody else. And it was just interesting to see how she, like how everybody puts their shit onto their kids as opposed to just letting it be like whatever it's going to be like it could be awesome. And why not? Let's create a different possibility. Anyway.
I totally agree. Like all of the standard phrases that people have and the things they, look out for this and look out for that. I mean, some things do come up that, like a lot of most kids follow a certain number of the normal patterns, but the way you think about it and what you assume and what you expect makes a huge difference. And it's funny. It's kind of like the same reason that people are all attracted to negative headlines, right? In whatever media form. It's, people are always really interested in the worst case scenario.
Yeah, but it's so interesting, and it really dovetails into our topic for today, frankly. And I remember with Kathy when Amy was, just learning to sit up and start to crawl on her own.
Yeah,
Kathy and I would practice not flipping out when she fell down, and practice not getting uptight ourselves, even though our initial reaction was like,
right,
because we noticed that the kids look at you for the cues.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like they look for you to say and they react to your reaction. So we found out that if we were it didn't mean that we didn't react if she really hurt herself and there was something that we need to tend to. Of course we did. But we found that we were able to shift her beliefs about herself by not getting, infringing our, concerns on her just automatically. And more often than not, she just got right back up, brushed herself off and said, oh, well, I don't want to do that again. Basically,
right.
You could just see in her thought process, but it was no big whoop. Whereas our initial reaction was definitely it's a big whoop.
Right. Of course. And I mean, whether you're freaking out about your kid falling down while they're trying to crawl, or whether you're freaking out about your website not working the way it's supposed to be working, or whether you're freaking out about your first sales letter that you ever put up seems to be completely bombing and not converting at all, or whether you're freaking out because, whatever reason you're freaking out in your business, it's a very similar discipline to learn how to observe something going wrong
and not labeling it and not have it mean something like inside you is personally beating yourself up over it or something of that nature. Like it's just something it just is what it is. Not to quote, I don't know if you've ever seen Jerry Seinfeld's latest stand-up, but he has this whole routine about every time somebody wants to make a big deal about something, they say the word twice. It is what it is, and that's that. Those types of anyway. I was just thinking about all that, and like, but it just is like the situation is what the situation is, and it's not something that is going to affect you positively or negatively unless you make up your mind to have it be that. You know what I mean?
That's right. And interestingly, being able, like when you're in a situation where you are down on yourself, or when you're upset about the way something's going, or you're frustrated, or you're overwhelmed, or you're confused, or or whatever it is, how do you make that mental and emotional shift where you can get up and out of it, and then really start doing something in order to improve the scenario instead of just staying stuck in the muck, right?
Yeah.
So limiting beliefs. You want to know an interesting limiting belief? We've talked about this one before. Is actually, should we talk about limiting beliefs that we've seen in ourselves and then have attempted to overcome?
We can, but what I'd like to do is just kind of tee up what I think we'll have while we do this and we wait for the delay in people being able to chime in.
Yeah.
I'd like to just share like what we discovered when we were talking to Dan several months ago, and how he, talks to high-level entrepreneurs that are looking to level up their game.
Yeah.
And, just kind of like out of the blue, he'll ask them, hey, I'm curious, like, do you think that you have any limiting beliefs about your business, about success, about, what has to happen to, say, shift your business online or something of that nature? I mean, I'm just putting it in our terms.
Right.
But, and then he just listens, and it sparks quite an amazing conversation. So, I mean, like, I think it's one thing for you and I to go, rambling on and spouting on as we definitely are able to and can share lots of great experiences. But I would really love to know what our audience is experiencing and what their thoughts are, and whether they feel like, that they're hindered in some way by a limiting belief or enhanced in some way by a belief,
right?
That served them. And so. And having said that, now, what do you have? What do you want to talk about?
It's a good question. These Facebook Lives are always funny because you never know whether you're going to go live and you are going to be talking to yourself with no viewers, talking to yourself with viewers that don't interact with you, talking with viewers that interact with you, or talking with viewers that interact with you and a whole ton of them and are super interactive and like love spreading the word. And it's a very interesting process to just have no idea what that's going to be like.
And one more category, the ones that watch and interact on their own later on after the live is over, when the recorded version is posted.
That's right, which oftentimes is the biggest push. And so we're talking now live, and the majority of people that are going to watch these videos often watch the replays. So,
right.
So maybe we should just talk about some of whether or not we have any limiting beliefs around money or things that we've seen. And then if we see some people jumping in and commenting, we'd love to hear from you guys. What are some of have you ever had an argument? Oh, this is good. Have you ever had an argument with a spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, or business partner about whether or not they're thinking too big or too small? About whether they're being too unrealistic, right? Or what are their goals too big, or are their goals realistic? These types of conversations. Have you ever had a boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, partner, or business partner who came from a significantly higher or significantly lower financial bracket than you grew up in, right? And how that can affect relationship dynamic. It's quite
and belief about what's possible. Yeah.
Yeah. These are some of the things you can ask yourself. Have you ever had arguments or disagreements with a spouse.
Thank you,
or,
Troy.
Awesome, Troy. Thanks, man. About about money and where you have disagreements about the nature of money, if money's good or if money's bad. So we'd love to hear about some of the challenges that you faced in relationship to limiting beliefs and success or your income, as well as questions or thoughts you might have around this. Please go ahead and chime in and let us know what your thoughts are.
I had an interesting experience kind of related to what you're talking about here that happened to me many, many years ago, where I saw this play out in real time, where what somebody thought they were communicating and what the other person heard and what everybody else heard was something completely different. And it all had to do with their filters. It all had to do with their frame of reference and how they were listening. And it was really kind of interesting because I don't remember the exact context, but there was a like leadership building conference thing that I was doing. And one of my best friends that I met actually through that process turned out to be like, he's a brother from another mother. Like we were like separated at birth but like by like 15 years or so, he is a bit older than me. And I looked up to him a lot in business, still do. And anyway, he's a good friend of mine. I think you may have met him, Bernie. Did you ever meet Bernie?
I don't remember Bernie.
He was definitely at my 90th birthday party when we did that big bash back in the day. And I know you and the gang were all there. And so anyway, Bernie, so we were sitting around there and everybody was sharing this story. And basically they were trying to give an example of how this phenomenon happens. Mm. And so somebody shared kind of like the game of telephone, only we were all, it wasn't whispered to one person. We were all talking and we were all present for the conversation. And the basic exercise was to repeat back what that person just said, or to respond it wasn't to repeat back what they just said, but it was to respond with your thoughts on what they just said from your point of view. Yeah. And it went around and all of us kind of said our own piece, but it was pretty close to what the original message was. And it got to Bernie, and Bernie said something, and it was so skewed towards his point of view that the person facilitating the training said, "Hey, wait a minute, what did you hear? What was said? What do you think was just said?" And he repeated it back, and it wasn't anything related to what actually was going on. And it was reinforced by all of us in different combinations. And so he started listening through his own filters, and he swore to God that's what he heard. And it wasn't like he was being intentionally, distracted or ignoring the conversation. It just was like one of these limiting factors or beliefs or whatever you want to call it, just completely filtered his conversation to the point that he didn't even realize that it happened. Right. You know what I mean?
Well, we all have conversations going on in our own head about the stuff that's coming in from the outside, right? So, and those conversations aren't exclusively verbal, right?
No, as a matter of fact, most of it is nonverbal.
Yeah,
no, most of the message, most of the communication is nonverbal.
Right, and so we're thinking about when someone says something, we're thinking about it's just like boom, 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 boom. Yeah, fractions of seconds. Where we're accessing memories, experiences, cross-referencing, what we believe to be true about the world and all these types of things, deciding whether we agree with them, disagree them, trust them, don't trust them, like very, very, very quickly. So that conversation within one's mind can be radically different than the outer conversation.
Ooh, I've got something that just occurred to me in the midst of what you were just saying.
Were you having a conversation in your own head while I was talking?
I was, but it was completely related to your conversation. And, how can we not have a conversation? Right. I mean, I dare you to stop it.
I know. Okay, what do you got?
Think about Facebook's algorithm. What Facebook does with your feed is that they are curating that feed based on what the people that you're communicating with already believe. So it's like the filters of the filters, and that's who they're showing your insights to, your post to. What's up, Gene? What's going on?
Hey,
By the way, I
Gene.
got your email, and yes, I will get that done. But I just wanted to let you know that we're going to be moving it yet again. So I'm happy to give you the interim login, but if you are wanting to wait a couple of weeks, then I can give you the permanent one. But either way, we'll make that happen, Gene. Anyway, sorry. So I was just, thinking about like the beliefs, and that Facebook literally curates so that your news feed is all people that agree with you, basically, that have similar beliefs, plus or minus, based upon not only your friends list, but what is being communicated on the same level. So,
Right.
I mean, consider that when you're, other than when you're doing paid ads on Facebook. So it's cool, Gene. That's an interesting phenomenon to do battle with, so to speak.
It is. It is. We all live in our own little bubble. It's another example of that, right? And so you're saying Facebook,
which gets even more enhanced, right, inside of Facebook, because the bubble, it leads you to believe that that everybody in the world thinks like you do,
right,
and believes what you do,
right. We're all living behind the wall, right?
Yeah.
Of our own making. Bum 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 bum.
And maybe that's why people get so torqued when they get a differencing of opinion that goes counter to what they know to be true in their world.
They believe something else is reality.
Yeah, and then they hear something that's slightly different, that's a different point of view that they don't have any opening for, because everything they've seen
bullshit. That's not
it's 99.
That's fucking bullshit, right?
Right. Like it's 99% what they already believe to be true, and what they just to confirm what they see that you're like. You're right, because these posts are absolutely right. It's what I already believe and already know to be true.
Yeah, and that was what was pounded into my head from a very early age from everyone around me, most likely, unless I went on a divergent path and figured out that the other thing was absolutely true, right? It's just, it's self-perpetuating.
I'm curious, like with your background in the ministry and where you were heading prior to changing directions.
Right.
What kind of, because I was raised in a very, very, very not organized religion household, even though like my parents were all bat mitzvahed and so on, and been like really, temple was really important to the elder generation. None of that was, ingrained into me and made as a have to. So I have a very different set of belief systems and values than somebody that has, that core religion in place.
Mm-hmm. So what, do you have any specific questions?
Well, is there something that you can see, like how it's affected you now, positively or negatively, or just like how some of that influence that was ingrained at an early age, from the ministry led you to have certain points of view or dogma or whatever,
Yeah, I'm sure there's all sorts of stuff. And there's probably a ton of stuff that I can't see still. Right. But like I grew up going to Sunday school, like all throughout my childhood, and for those of you who don't know, I almost went to ministry school because I was doing so poorly in regular school that it was one of the threats. I was going to have to go to ministry school unless I shaped up, so it's kind of like, okay. But the thing was that I was going first I grew up Lutheran, and then we was Congregationalist. So not super hardcore, you know what I mean? Not there are some religions that are like really super intense. Congregationalist is kind of watered down, kind of, it's not too, you're going to burn in hell for every little thing. But throughout the Sunday school process, I went through confirmation, and, you have to study a bunch of stuff and do a bunch of stuff, and you have to give at least one sermon. And I gave a sermon. And so I got up on stage, in a big room in front of a whole bunch of people, me and my dorky self, and like I gave a sermon, and I was like, and everybody thought it was cool. And I was like, oh, and then I gave another one, and everybody thought that was
positive
cool
reinforcement.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, all right. And what I found was that as long as I didn't write out a script or try to memorize anything, I was great. So what I finally came up with was I would make like bullet point notes, and then I would like freestyle it and talk about my ideas, and I could do that really well. And so in 7th grade, 8th grade, I was giving sermons in front of my church. And one of the things that gave me was the inherent confidence that I had the ability, and I didn't use it for years. Well, I did a little bit actually, but that I had the ability to lead people, that I had the ability to speak with people, to groups of people, and they would ultimately listen to some degree. I would,
you could move them emotionally.
To some degree, you know?
Yeah.
And so and then I ended up becoming not a minister. I ended up dropping out of the church entirely, and in the middle of one of my sermons, I realized I didn't believe all the stuff that I was saying, and so I went stream of consciousness and said what I actually believed, and that was my last sermon. And
by your choice or the establishment's choice?
I think it was mutual. It was definitely mutual. They didn't ask me back either. Did you get pushback from it? Did that ingrain anything into you, like reinforce your rebellious nature, or did it, or was it pretty chill? Like, like mutually. Shortly after that last sermon, I stopped going to church entirely. I started dyeing my hair crazy colors. I started running hardcore and I was spending all my time running, and I completely disconnected from religion at that point. It was a hard stop for me.
I'll tell you what, one of the things that I really admire about you, that I think just listening to you, that might come from that upbringing, is your complete unwillingness to go negative. With anybody that you've had positive or negative relationships with, or situations with, your ability to always keep it positive and never be bad-mouthing, however much it might be warranted. I think that's really inspiring, because it says a lot about your character. And I know that I've used your example to coach myself at times when I get stuck in the nitpicky stuff and that type of thing.
Yeah, people in organizations suck. I mean, they can't, they can and they do. They totally suck, and I'm included in that list. And it's like, yeah, I for whatever reason, it probably came from my dad, but I definitely developed a don't smack talk people, at least.
Jack Sufelt, how are you, man? It has been way too long.
How's it going, Jack? I'm not going to get into a religious conversation right now, Jack, though I do appreciate your insight, wisdom, experience, knowledge, and expertise. I don't know that we completely agree on everything, and that's totally fine with me. It's just a really interesting thing. I think smack talking people is a bad idea. I think most of the time when you have a disagreement, it's usually a miscommunication. Sometimes there are just some desperate people doing what appear to be some evil things, right?
Yeah, and they're not in their best person at that moment either. It's out of their crap that is creating that, and so they're not putting their best, who they really are, forward.
It's true. And also what I found is, even if I don't verbalize stuff, if I allow myself to get stuck in thinking negative things about other people, groups of people, organizations, or anything that's outside of my direct ability to positively influence, like if I find myself smack talking people in my head, I do my best to stop. And it's really hard. It's really hard. But the only way that I've found to stop that is by focusing all the things that I love about that person or thing or group, or even while I'm in the midst of wanting to rip somebody's ears off, you know?
Yeah, no, it's interesting because it relates to the breakthroughs that I shared with you yesterday that I've been experiencing myself. And when I realized that I'm even though I thought I was living from vision, I was actually having a circumstance be the one that was controlling my behavior. And so sometimes even if you want to remain positive, it doesn't work to just force yourself to visualize the positive things because you're not in that space.
Yeah, if it feels like you're full of shit and you know you're full of shit,
yeah. So I mean,
320 pounds saying I'm skinny isn't going to convince you, right?
Yeah, it's like positive affirmations only work if you truly believe them while you're saying it. If your energy is going then it isn't going to make a bit of difference. So the only thing that I was getting at is that what allowed me the space to then turn it into a positive that I could then immediately let go of, and then I was able to focus on all the good stuff and all the joy and the love that I have, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera in the situation, was to acknowledge that it was going on, just to look at it, just to acknowledge, yes, I did that. Yes, I chose to get focused here. Yes, I got myself all, discombobulated, and okay, now that I see that, am I willing to let it go?
Right.
Yes. And in that moment I could, and then I have the ability now to shift and to focus in on all the positive, vision building, love, whatever you want to call it, side of the seesaw.
That's right. Well, so that's the interesting thing when we talk about beliefs. So back to the limiting beliefs question, is that all beliefs are by nature limiting.
Right.
And they are constraints. They are walls. They are the walls of the box that we're putting ourselves in. We're saying, okay, this is the reality that I'm willing to accept right now. It's my belief that this is what's up. And sometimes those will stay with you your whole life. And sometimes you'll need to shift them entirely. Sometimes you can expand them. Sometimes you need to contract them. Right. But we're talking so metaphorically. What do you do with that? Right. So like my uncle is a 5-star chaplain in the Air Force. Okay. Like
a 5-star general, or?
Yeah. 5-star general chaplain. And,
gotcha.
He has had massive religious congregations, right? My cousin is a minister. I have a long line of religion and ministry in my family on different sides at different points in time. But then I found that my dad is a dentist. He's an entrepreneur. He's a business owner. And so all of those beliefs about what were possible by me was, well, I could be a dentist if I wanted to. I'm going to go to college. I can speak in front of people because all these are family members that were doing these types of things. So are those limiting beliefs? I don't know. Am I limiting myself into believing that I can get in front of a large group of people, talk, people will listen and do stuff? Maybe that's a limiting belief. It's certainly an empowering belief if you don't think you can do that. But we also all have beliefs that hold us back, that trap us, that keep us down in terms of our personal income, right? A limiting belief that's also a extremely common desire is the desire for usually a new business owner to get their business up to $10,000 per month. Everybody thinks that's the mecca, right? It's the thing. It's the number that everybody wants. It's also total cultural brainwashing. Is it a limiting belief? Well, if you're only making $2,000 a month, $10,000 a month seems like an empowering belief to me.
Right.
But if you're capable of making $100,000 a month, $10,000 a month seems awfully limiting. Which is it?
Yeah, but you've got to know that you're capable of it, or believe that you're capable of it before that. And so, I mean, like for me, when I was pursuing becoming wealthy, and my my idea of being free and freedom, for me, from an early age, I equated that to becoming a millionaire. That if I was a millionaire, then I would have the freedom that I wanted and needed. And so I pursued that with vigor. The problem was, in my head, I was not a millionaire.
Right.
I was not even a thousandaire. Like I was still like very scarcity minded, very much the New York City street kid, scrapping and having to take the shortcuts and do whatever is necessary. So for the longest time, I didn't have, I had to battle to get to the point where I got to about $75,000 a year.
Right.
In kind of my own business. It was the first time when I finally had some success in network marketing, when I got into the $75,000 a year income stream, which, at the time and at the company, I was at the top 1% income earners in the company at 75,000. But it was a huge struggle. And then from there, to do it on my own was another battle entirely. Right. So I found that when I stopped trying to become and pursue big dollars in an unrealistic amount of time, even though I truly knew that it was possible to do that. I had seen other people, I could talk myself into it. I'd done a lot of mind shift work, but I wasn't making it happen. So somewhere it was, like I had a belief that it wasn't possible. At least my music wasn't in alignment with what my words were and what I knew that I was capable of. One of my empowering beliefs, and like you said, all beliefs are limiting in some capacity or another. The question is, are they serving you, and are they continuing to serve you, as you grow and as they grow? That only you can decide that. Anyway, one of my beliefs that I believed from birth, I don't know how I learned this, but I believed that I could learn anything. And I also believed that anybody could learn anything. That, it didn't matter that that anybody can learn anything, and I can learn anything. And arrogantly enough, I could teach anybody anything to get them to learn it. I could force them to learn it.
That's right.
I mean, that was a core, come from for me. So the idea of going for big goals was huge for me, and I always did. And I worked on them, and I did all of the programs. I bought all of, Tony Robbins stuff. I bought, like everything from the time that I, first discovered Think and Grow Rich, and the first motivational seminar that I went to with Brian Tracy and Zig Ziglar when I was 15 years old, maybe.
Wow.
Something like that. No, I was probably a little bit older than that, because I was already into the martial arts by then, because I remember going up to Brian Tracy because I was watching him on stage, and I said, "You study martial arts, don't you?" And I could just tell that, from the way that he was holding. Anyway, the thing that I found interesting is that it wasn't until I chunked back my goals and said, all right, let me focus first on in my own business, building $1,000 a month.
Right.
And I knew I could do that. Like, even though I'd never done it 100% on my own, building my own business, building my own website. This is when I first launched my website. I hadn't done it. So, but I knew that I was that's possible. I can, I can wrap my brain around it. And then I set a goal for 3,000, and then it was 5,000 and 10,000. The point is that when I gave myself those chunks, within 18 months, I was making $1 million a year in my income within a year and a half after that point. But I never made the progress until I just incrementally, and I know you've heard me talk about this endlessly in the 2 Comma Club before I sold that over to Russell and that crew over there. But when I ran the 2 Comma Club for 4 years, it was monthly newsletter for 4 years. When I had that, there was a section in the 2 Comma Club newsletter called "Adding Zeros to Your Thinking," and that's what this was all about. It was all about just doing that. Mm-hmm. And now I'm going to shut up. I think.
Well, so
But I see a comment that came in from Jack, and I don't know. I haven't looked at the whole thing, but I know it's.
Jack says, we're only limited by our views and ignorance. Let's all be totally positive and good, like you're saying to do, and let truth be our guide and strength. Trying to always be better is the epitome of personal. I was like, I've never said the word epitome before. What is this? I've clearly never typed the word epitome. Is the epitome of personal growth. Sadly, there are evil and mean people out there who do or say bad things, and we have to deal with them and what they say. It's true. He says, I love the success stories he's sharing. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Many say knowledge is power. Isn't the proper use of knowledge is power? That is right. Jack Zufeld. Awesome. I'll tell you that one of the best ways to upgrade, to enhance, or even to become aware of areas where you may have some limiting beliefs around money, success, business, or what you are capable of accomplishing in your life is simply to spend time with people that make more money than you and make a habit of doing that. And if you can spend more time with people who are making more money than you in an area where you really want to grow, as in your career or in your business, right, then it's going to make you an even bigger impact. And you know that you're doing this right when you are uncomfortable, when you go to their house for a visit and it's way nicer than your place, or where you don't really want to give them a ride in your car because you're embarrassed about how crappy your car is, or where you aren't quite sure if you're going to be able to afford the bill on your portion of the tab when you guys go and meet for dinner at a restaurant that's outside of your pay grade. Now, maybe you shouldn't go to that one, but the point is that make sure you can afford it. Is that if you're uncomfortable with some of the ideas that are being discussed, if they confuse you, if you're threatened by them, if they buck your beliefs about money, success, or wealthy or rich people, there's a very good chance that you're doing the right thing. Same is true with limiting beliefs around fitness. Okay? If you want to drop a few pounds and you want to change your actual actions and beliefs about what you're capable of with your health, with your nutrition, with your fitness, whatever that means to you. You know, you could be an Olympic athlete, you could be morbidly obese, you could be anywhere in between. Point is, start hanging out with people that are in better shape than you, and if you start doing more of what they're doing, you're going to get in better shape. Like, that's the bottom line. And it's going to make you uncomfortable to do more of what they're doing because you're not in shape. So don't shy away just because it makes you uncomfortable. Now, if you're getting into like morally gray territory, that's different, right? If you're hanging out with questionable individuals who are like, you know, ethically sloppy, then maybe you should hang out with a different crew. But really, that's
I mean, and it's not just about making money necessarily. And I mean, if that's important to you, great. But I remember, frankly, like when we went to Necker Island, which is the only time I went. I know you went more than once, but when I went there and the time that you got married, and the thing that struck me most that I loved hanging out with, it wasn't all the people that were there, although, you know, they were all, you know, super powered entrepreneurs, online, you know, winners. I mean, I remember Vishen was one of the people, and that was before he built Mind Valley into the behemoth that it is now. And he was partnered with a buddy of his, Mike, and they ended up splitting and doing their own thing in each one. But I mean, like these are the kind of players that were in the room there, and all of them, Yannick Silver, Joe Polish, Dan, I mean, everybody that was there was just really incredibly powerhouse. And of course, Brunson, I mean, there's Russell, And what struck me is that he was the most present person in the room.
Right.
During the meetings, he was taking notes, he was engaged, he was listening, where I think the majority of all of us, the 45 of us that were there, that were a part of the event, we were all on our laptops, and, on breaks, we were calling back to our offices and making all the important calls. And, we were jumping out to do the webinars and the conferences and all of this stuff because we were not fully present.
Right.
And I'm like, here's the richest man in the room by far, and he is the most present and the most that's somebody that I want to emulate, not just for the money, but for how his meaning was. And I loved, when he spoke, the first words out of his mouth, because we were talking about how to launch the charity, the Virgin charity. And he was like, and the whole premise was, to use capitalism to give back and to change the world through capitalism, which is a big idea that I love being a part of, that just turns me inside out, and to this day, and always has, always, I think, will. And I remember the first words out of his mouth were, I'm not sure that every entrepreneur is ready for this yet. And I'm not sure that everybody sitting in this room, it's the best thing for you to be focused on right now. And I was like, holy shit, here's a refreshing honesty that, from a man that's, was there to talk about charity and giving back. And his point was very well taken, that you've got to get your business to a certain level of stability and ongoing income and results. And so that it can be, running without you and truly be a business asset, what I would call an income for life type business. And, he was very together and so that's somebody that I would gladly say, and by the way, he had the worst, talk about the best places and all of that. I mean, do you remember the grungy dog that was there and his groundskeepers? And do you remember how, when we went on the poker run, he played practical jokes on all of us by locking the bathroom and climbing out the window and coming back and having fun with all of us while all of us are sitting online waiting for to try to get into the bathroom. I mean, to me that's just something that, I'll never forget. And when I think about the people that I want to aspire to, it's that it's for me, it's not the money anymore. Although, I guess that's because I've made a lot of money and lost a lot of money.
Stick, right? It's a measuring stick of financial success, right? But it's not.
Yeah, but all the restaurants and stuff that you're talking about, there was a time when, yes, I would totally agree with you. And, there was a time where until I was able to experience what it's like to be on a private jet, until I was able to, rent an island for $50,000 a night with a bunch of my friends,
right,
and hang out there. I remember many a meal with Matt Gill and Kevin Wilkie where we spent, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on a meal. And that was important to all of us at the time, to be able to do that. And we would have, have battles of who could get first to the waiter, to the server, and pick up the bill before the other person could,
right,
so that we could be one up on the other person. And all of that was critical back then. Now I could give a shit, because it really just doesn't matter to me anymore. But I went through it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, it's interesting stuff. And we are going to be talking about this in detail tomorrow evening, right here. Below the beard, baby. ETGworkshops.com. We'd like to introduce you to our fine friend, Fred.
Is he feathered? No, he's furred.
Not feathered yet, but...
Is he furred? No, I guess he's in fur.
I don't know. He's in fur, but he's not. He doesn't have fur.
Right.
So if you want to meet Fred, you got to go to that website, put in your name and email. We're going to introduce you to Fred tomorrow night. We're going to teach you and show you and discuss all about breaking through the financial glass ceiling, getting off the hamster wheel, getting past the financial plateau that you've been stuck at for way too long. We're going to be talking about specifically limiting beliefs and how limiting beliefs can hold you back personally and in your business from achieving the success and doing the good that you can, how to break free from those limiting beliefs, and exactly what you can do in the real world in order to start moving forward immediately. So 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, go to www.etgworkshops.com. We're going to introduce you to our friend Fred. He's pretty fantastic.
What are you saying, Gene? Tard? I'm not sure if the word's tard, and if it is, what do you mean?
No, she was talking about feathered, and it was like, no, it's no good.
Tarred and feathered. Okay, tarred. I get it now. Okay.
etgworkshops.com. We're going to go hang out with Fred. It's going to be wicked rad. We're going to talk about limiting beliefs and how to overcome them. We would love to see you there. Joshua, is there anything else you want to go over today?
No, I mean, it would be really cool to get like other people to tell us what they think, if they think that they have any limiting beliefs. But in lieu of that, and what they are and how they've been, how it's affected them. In lieu of that, I've got nothing else to say.
Rock and roll. I guess that's all for now. Guys,
Thank you very much.
We'll see you tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern, and then we'll see you again at 7 p.m. Eastern for the How to Overcome Limiting Beliefs webinar. You're going to learn all about Fred. Be there. It'll be worth it. All right. Thank you, Joshua. Good talking to you as always.
See you, Tillman.
Over
Have
now.
a good one.